my kids will never be the ones screaming in the middle of Costco, and now they're totally the ones screaming in the middle of Costco.
Every single time.
Oraya points out being flawed and being confused and basically choosing to love someone anyway. I think that is a lot of what true love is.
And even the ones I say I don't like, I still like. I just don't like them as much. But did I read them and did I enjoy them? Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to Romantasy Remedy. I'm Whitney.
And I'm Kenzie. We're sisters-in-law and book besties who thrive on daily doses of magic and romance from our favorite fantasy stories.
So, if your emotional support animal is a dragon and your therapist has shadow powers, you're in the right place. Thanks for being here and for liking, rating, and following our show. Before we get started, this is our official content warning. Simply put, Romantasy Remedy is a podcast for grown-ups. The topics and language will reflect that. Please listen at your comfort level.
And one more thing before we dive into The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. Our spoiler warning. For most of the episode, there will only be spoilers for the chapters 61 through 75, but at the end of today's episode, we will have our Spoiler Central segment where we make connections to events later in the book and the entire Crowns of Nyaxia series. Don't worry, we'll give another big warning before Spoiler Central begins.
Thanks, Kenz. One of our goals at Romantasy Remedy is to highlight how books in this genre inspire readers. When we see characters facing fears, overcoming challenges, and growing into their potential, it helps us to do the same. So each week, we'll choose a quote from the chapters we read to be an affirmation, a phrase to empower and motivate us. This week's affirmation says, "We go down fighting." We love this because we all have times when we need the reminder to keep fighting no matter how tough things get. Even when things don't end the way we had hoped, the knowledge that we gave our best efforts can be healing and encouraging. Raihn says this to everyone when they're strategizing their next move against Simon, and it was on the heels of their defeat. So let's follow Raihn's lead on this. Whatever battle looms ahead of you, remember to go down fighting. And don't forget, you can find a printable version of the affirmation in the show notes in case you want to stick it on your mirror or fridge or wherever. Keep listening to hear about more moments from these chapters that either inspired, healed, humored, or wooed us. But before we get into that, Kenzie is going to recap what happened in this week's section of chapters.
Absolutely. I love that. I love our affirmation. We go down fighting. So fun. But all right, book besties, buckle up. Oraya wakes up at her aunt's house with Raihn by her side and immediately starts bonding with Acaeja. She earns her mom's bracelet, puts it on, and boom, magical hand map unlocked. Apparently, trauma jewelry now comes with GPS. They blood mirror, call the crew, and decide on the plan. Oraya gets the god blood. Everyone else fights Simon and his army, and when the day arrives, Raihn tells Oraya he loves her and then promptly leaves her to explore some stairs leading into a dark underground ruin. How romantic? ? Down in the pit, Oraya activates the magic with her blood and gets the Vincent cinematic universe, his love story with her mother, the night he found young Oraya, and a final ghostly confession where he admits he loved her and did the best he could. Cue emotional devastation for us all. Meanwhile, upstairs, Raihn is absolutely wrecking Simon at the small cost of being mostly dead himself. Oraya erupts from the ruins, runs to Raihn, and summons Nyaxia using Alaris's blood. Nyaxia shows up, says no Coriatis bond, and leaves. Honestly, rude. So Oraya immediately calls Plan B, Acaeja. Since her mom was an acolyte, Acaeja listens. She agrees to save Raihn only if Oraya and Raihn promise to fight for what's right. Bond granted, husband saved, power couple status unlocked. So, in conclusion, aunties are the best. Vincent made us cry, and Nyaxia sucks. Didn't we know that, though? She does.
Yep. We're always going to end recap with, so in conclusion now.
I think we could put Nyaxia sucks on most of them.
I think that should be one of our stickers. Nyaxia sucks.
Yeah. That's a good
Actually, I bet
idea.
Septimus would wear a t-shirt that says Nyaxia sucks. Not in front of her, but
That's like his battle cry.
maybe like
Nyaxia
any of the
sucks.
Bloodborne actually would wear
Yeah,
that t-shirt. Nyaxia sucks.
seriously. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. That was a perfect recap. I loved it. Well, I'm excited to talk all about our romantasy remedies from these chapters and what took us to book therapy this time. I know that we both loved Oraya and Vincent's moment in the magical dark cave thing. Ruins, that's what they're called.
Ruins.
Ruins.
Yep.
But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about some of Raihn and Oraya's interactions before they get to the ruins because, and I know we spent a lot of time in the last episode discussing their romance and how sweet Raihn is, but man, he took it to another level in these chapters. I thought he
Yes.
couldn't, I thought that was impossible, but he did. He took it up another level. And it's not surprising. They both basically are grappling with the fact that they might die or they're
Right.
probably going to die, as Misha says. Actually,
Yeah.
that's funny. I don't think I mentioned that in our last episode, but when Raihn and Misha have their conversation in the cave, their cave conversation, their trauma bonding, I think Raihn says, we might die, and Misha goes, probably. We're probably going to die.
Like,
and he's like,
we're
and that's
not
coming
living.
from the optimistic one. Good times,
Yeah.
good times. But anyway, as I was saying, Raihn and Oraya are grappling with the idea that they're probably going to die. And so for some reason in these stories, the prospect of death makes everyone much hornier and much
It's so
more
true.
romantic. So they definitely have a moment. I
Yes.
guess we lied last time when I said that all the spicy moments were in that section. There's one little spicy moment here. And there's just a lot of quotes, though, where, again, it just shows how deep their relationship has grown. And it just made me swoon over and over and over again. Oraya says, for example, I wanted to capture him like rainwater. Hey, there she is again. Play on the
Rainwater.
word rain. I wanted to savor him like blood. I wanted him to open me and touch everything within me that I'd hidden away from the world. How could there be so much pleasure in vulnerability? How could there be so much pleasure in fear? So again, she's still like coming to terms with the fact that she is letting someone else into her life and her heart in this way. The way that Carissa wrote that about wanting to capture him like rainwater, I just was swooning. And then she goes on to say, Raihn, my downfall and my most valuable supporter, my weakness and my strength, my worst enemy and the greatest love I had ever known. All of that in one name, one person, one soul I knew as well as my own, just as confusing, just as flawed. And not only is that beautiful, but that really resonated with me. I feel like when you're younger and you are in shorter relationships, you know, you have this idea of what love is, especially if you're just basing it off of all the Disney movies we watched as
Oh,
children.
man. Oh, man. Yes.
That it's just butterflies in your stomach and rainbows. And
Yeah.
you do have those moments. I am a hopeless romantic, guys. I believe in romance and that part of love. It's real. But there are also things that are hard about being in a long-term relationship or a marriage. And Oraya points out, you know, being flawed and being confused and basically choosing to love someone anyway.
Yes.
And so I just really loved that because I think that that is a lot of what true love is seeing someone's flaws, seeing their mistakes, and choosing to love them anyway. And they do the same for you, right?
Yes. I think I love that you said it. It actually reminds me of one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I was told this when I was getting married. You choose your love, but you need to love your choice. And I think that this is a perfect demonstration of that. And I think it is a choice. There's happy and fun. And it's so easy to love your choice at that moment, but choosing to continue to love in the other moments isn't equally important.
Yeah. And I feel like the longer you are with someone and the more life experiences you have together, I mean, the challenges, I feel like, just kind of go up level by level.
Yes.
And
Yes.
hopefully that person is willing to grow with you and change with you through those challenges. And when that happens, I feel like it's super beautiful, almost even more beautiful than the initial butterflies in your stomach, swooning type of love, but that enduring, we're going to change and grow together. You remember the movie Up?
No, I
um,
do. Yes.
that pops into my mind because you know the like really short, like 1 minute long love story of I don't remember
Yeah.
the character's name, but the old
Uh,
man and the old woman. But
we
I always
just
think
watched
about
that this weekend. Why don't
did
I
you?
know
Oh
their
my
name?
gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
But that little short love story always makes me emotional
Carl.
because I feel like that is like true love, right? Growing old together and changing and growing together is just beautiful. And I mean, I kind of ran away on a tangent with that coming off of Araya's comment. I don't know if she was
Yeah.
thinking about any of that,
Right.
but just her comment on Raihn and she and Raihn both being flawed, being confused, not being perfect, and loving
Right.
each other anyway. That's
Yeah.
what kind of made me go down this train of
No, I
thought.
I like the train of thought. It's a good train of thought. And it fits in with last week's affirmation of there she is, like he sees her for
Yeah.
what she is, flaws and all. Absolutely. Good tangent.
Well,
It's a
and
good
Rain
one.
is kind of on a similar path with his thoughts
Right?
because, they have this spicier moment, right? And then Araya goes to sleep and it shifts to Rain's POV and he decides that instead of sleeping, he just wants to watch her. Not in a creepy way, guys, I promise. But for example, he says this I didn't need to collect more carnal moans. I wanted the rest of it. The way she breathed, the way she smelled, the exact arrangement of her dark lashes over her cheeks, what it felt like just to be next to her. And I thought that was the sweetest
Hmm.
thing. I mean, he just is trying to soak in everything about her just in case it's the last
Yeah.
night, right? He
Yep.
just wants to really take her in and remember her and appreciate her. And when he's doing that, he realizes that he does indeed love her. Like, I think he's known this whole time that he
Right.
loves her, but he actually acknowledges to himself, I love her. Like, I
Right.
no doubt love her. So
Yeah.
he's thinking about this and he also acknowledges that that is very scary because he says, me dying, whatever, that's fine. But
Right.
thinking about Araya dying, now that I know I love her, is the most terrifying thing. And I think we can relate to that. He says that he's not going to waste a single moment on sleeping. Instead, he says he spent them counting the freckles on her cheeks, memorizing the pattern of her breaths, watching the flutter of her eyelashes. Rhea wakes up when the sun goes down and she's like, oh, Rain, how did you sleep? And he's like, perfect. He says he doesn't have a single regret. He gets all my swoon points. Whatever swoon points I have left, I'm just going to give them to Rain now because that was the most romantic thing I've ever read. And before Araya, you mentioned this in the recap, Kenzie, before Araya goes down into the ruins by herself and Rain's going to
Right.
go off and battle,
Yep.
he tells her, I love you. And he says, I need you to know that I love you, Araya. And he doesn't even wait to see if she says, I love you, but he doesn't need that. That's not why he's saying it. He just wants to tell her. He needs to make sure she
Verbalize it.
knows
Yeah.
that he loves her. Doesn't care if she says it back, but he needs to tell her.
Love that he did because I feel like sometimes just verbalizing those 3 words is important.
Yeah,
Good for him for saying it.
yeah, absolutely. Of course, Araya is kind of shell shocked when he says it and doesn't say it back right then. We'll get into Araya and stuff later.
Right.
For me, this little romantic section about their interactions, not only the spice, but all of Rain's thoughts about Araya and how much he loves her, realizing he loves her, they were just romantic and beautiful and a great book therapy session. So,
It was a good book. All these books, just so good. I think I
so
say that
good.
every time. So good. It's so good. It's
I
so
know. I
good.
am totally one of those people that I just read these books. I'm like, yeah, I like that one too. Like there there aren't very many where I don't like it. So
You're
I don't
right.
care though. It's fine.
No.
It's
And even
fine.
the
I'd
ones I
rather it be
say
that
I
way.
don't like, I still like. I just don't like
Right.
them as much as other ones. But did I read them and
Right.
did I enjoy them? Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
All
I'm with
right.
you. Well, speaking of that,
Yes.
what section? Well, I kind of gave it away earlier, but tell
Yeah.
us more
Well,
about the section that was book therapy for you.
Well, like you said, he says love you to her and she's going down into the ruins. And what epiphany, what a whole kind of moment happened down in the ruins. But I want to share this quote because I thought it was just interesting. Right before this happens, Araya said, People don't really talk about how the days that make history, the days that change the course of entire civilizations, start in such mundane ways. I'm like, oh, because man did this change. So Araya goes down into the ruins, right? I forget how it starts, but she basically has to give her blood to make these ruins
Yes.
activate. But
Yes.
this fog appears and she sees someone and she realizes it's Vincent in it, but she's like, am I seeing Vincent? Am I not seeing Vincent? What am I actually seeing right now? In this stretch of chapter, she gets to see a lot of Vincent's memories and she learns a whole different side of Vincent. I'm going to pull up all my quotes because I'm basically just going to read quotes. Honestly, you should just read chapter 69 and 71 and then you'll understand because it's
For
so
real.
good.
It was so
Um,
good.
she talks about how she dreamt of Vincent countless time, but this version of him had felt totally different because it was so much more real, so much more vivid. And she said the fine details of his face struck me like a knife to the chest, all the things I didn't realize I'd forgotten. And I thought that was interesting because how quick do we forget things that aren't in front of us all the time? And she's been grieving him for so long, I'm sure it did just shock her.
Yeah.
But she learns that Alana, her mom, and Vincent had kind of built these together. But when they were building them together, he had to leave pieces of himself through the rings to actually get to the middle of it. Obviously, Ray is going to have mixed feelings. She's been grieving Vincent this whole time, but she also has memories of him that aren't the best. And so he actually asked her, the things you've seen here, have they tainted your image of me? When she gets into these visions, she finds out about Alana, about the love he had for her. Do we want to talk about all the memories she sees?
Well, yeah, let's talk about it a little bit because I
Okay.
really loved getting to see that. I know Vincent is
Yeah.
mortified that we all get to see it, but it made me want a novella about Vincent and Elena. Like, I want to see this little love story unfold between them.
For sure. I
And, he talked about, seeing her look around the ruins when they were, I guess, deciding where to build this
right.
lock or whatever for the god blood, and how she saw potential in things. And I almost wondered if that comment was about him a little bit, if he felt like
Right.
she saw potential in him. Anyway, it was really beautiful to see a little bit of their love story. I was not
No,
mad about that.
no, it's definitely interesting. And I think it showed Araya a totally different side of Vincent, that he actually cared for somebody. But then she ends up leaving because she is pregnant with Araya. And I don't think she told Vincent, but Vincent's like, you think I can't smell
Right.
my child on you? But he lets her leave. And I think we find out later too that he actually had to have another acolyte or another seer like help him finish the ruins. And so it wasn't as good as the parts that she had helped him with. But it's interesting because in his memories, he was talking about how he should go after her and he should hunt her down and snip the loose thread in the tapestry. Because as we know with his family, he watched his dad kill his brother and
Right.
how vicious those families and the royalty can be. And he never did. And he actually talks about later about how the thought of an empty bedchamber in his empty castle hit him and it's more painful than any battle wound he's ever endured, talking about Alana, which
Yeah,
is
I thought
wild.
that was very telling because
Very.
at first, when he's sharing his memories, he says that his desire and his feelings for her drive him crazy because it makes him feel weak and powerless that he has such strong feelings for her.
Right.
And so when she leaves, and the quote that you just mentioned, how he feels so much pain over her not being there, him acknowledging that is crazy.
It's huge. Here's another quote that I loved. What I felt for Alana is so much greater than what I once felt for a kind enemy I barely knew. My body physically recoils at the thought of what the wound of her death might feel like. And I think it's interesting that it's not just was, but is. So even in the afterlife, he still feels so strongly. His love's still so strong for her, but he did let her go. But then later, he talked about how he was going to kill her, not Alana, just Araya. And that's when, we get the famous little serpent.
Yes, because he finds her, and instead of her being this trembling, fearful little kid, she legit bites him, like, just
Yeah.
bites right on his thumb.
Well, and he talks about how when he saw her that she looked just like her mom and he couldn't do it. So we get through all this, and the themes I found through reading these chapters were basically love versus control and what they look like from both sides, and how Vincent was showing his love, but Oraya saw it as control. And what a wonderful thing it was for her to be able to see these memories, because she can now know that it was through love, even though it looked a certain way. And she actually talked about how she hated him for loving her mom so much and having to see the turmoil or conflict it created in her. He did love her, but his love doesn't always equal goodness. Is that a good way to put
Yeah,
it?
it's so interesting the way you put that, how that balance of love and control and how it might look different depending whose view you
Right.
are seeing it from. And I love that you brought up the moment of him finding her as a child. Some of the quotes in that scene just hit me so hard when I reread it. I'm sure they hit me hard the first time too, and I've just forgotten. But he says how he was expecting to go there and kill her. And then he says, but what I was not expecting was to love you so devastatingly much. And I was like, oh dear, my heart is just bursting. And then he's talking about carrying her out of there, taking her with
Yes.
him.
Yes.
And for him to say these words I'm about to read, remember, this is a man who his whole sole purpose in life was to be powerful and appear powerful. He goes, I'm already more afraid than I ever have been, afraid of you and what you could do to me, afraid of the world that could kill you so easily, afraid of myself, gifted with another fragile heart that I know I cannot keep. But, my little serpent, it is the most wonderful fear. Every minute with you is, even if I already regret all the mistakes I know I will make.
Ugh. I feel like that's every parent's feelings, right?
Yes. Maybe that's why it hit me so hard. I
Yes.
just totally 100% connected with Vincent on this parent to parent level when I read those words.
Yes. I don't think I could be a Vincent kind of parent, but I can understand his want for control. And I see that with myself with my kids, especially as they're young, that control is so nice and so easy. But as they grow and losing some of that control, I don't want to
Yeah,
say I understand Vincent, but I kind of understand where he's coming from. And I feel like he's operating out of fear and love,
for sure.
not control necessarily.
For
But
sure. And I mean, I just think about my very first baby and coming home from the hospital and feeling afraid of so many things, feeling afraid of something happening to her. What if we get a car crash? What if this happens? What if that happens, right?
right.
Maybe it's postpartum anxiety. I don't know. But
Maybe a little bit of that in there.
a little bit. But I think like you said, all parents, or even if you're not a parent, even if you just love someone else, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, but just loving someone on that soul deep level,
Yeah.
it's kind of the flip side to that love is this fear, right? This
Right.
underlying fear of losing them and how much it would hurt and how much darker your life would be if you did lose them.
For sure.
And that's kind of what Vincent is experiencing and talking
Absolutely.
about.
Well, and I think it's important when he said, I tried, Araya. He murmured, I tried. I think that kind of sums up those chapters. He truly did try. That was him going down fighting. I really think
Yes.
he
Yes.
was trying. And I think one thing to point out with Vincent is we also have to remember where he came from and the trauma, and how his trauma was probably disguised as protection for Araya. And there's probably a lot you could unpack there. I don't think he was necessarily a villain. I think this is just the way he knew how to operate.
100%. I mean, you kind of touched on his father and what his father did to his baby brother, and so everything that he was taught does not prepare him to love someone,
Right.
especially to love a human woman and then have a half human daughter. And so the tools that he was equipped with, he
Hmm.
truly did try, I think. I think
Yes.
he did his best. And again, that's such another kind of great comment, I feel like, on parenting. Sometimes, you know, before you're a parent, for example,
Yes.
you think, oh, how could my parents have done this? Or parental figure, whoever,
Right.
why would they do this? And sometimes then when you're in that situation, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
No,
Like,
and it's so easy to like, I don't know about point fingers, but it's so easy from the outside looking in on situations to be like, well, I would totally do this. I would totally do this. And
Mhm.
then it happens to you and you're like, "Well, fainting
Right.
goat."
Totally silly example of like before I had kids, like my kids will never be the ones screaming in the middle of Costco, and now they are totally the ones screaming in the middle of
Every
Costco. So
single
it's fine.
time, right?
It's fine. It's fine. I told you this before we started recording, but I was just looking at some quotes from The Kingdom of Claw by Demi Winters, and this isn't a spoiler, so I'm fine sharing it with you, Kenzie, and anyone else
Yes,
that
tell
hasn't
me.
read it. But there's a character in that book who's kind of like a grandmother type of mentor figure, and she's talking to the main characters at one point and says exactly this. She says everyone thinks that their parents know everything, and then you grow up and realize we're all just bumbling fools or something along those lines.
It's
And
so true.
I agree with her.
I think when you're a kid and you're growing up, you're always like, my parents know everything and they knew this and this. And then you're a parent, you're like, oh, my parents knew nothing. I should be a lot nicer. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. I
A lot
think
less
that
judgmental.
you assume that your parents, as you said, know everything. But now that we're in this parenting stage of life, you realize we're also just like experiencing life
Yeah.
right now. We are
Figuring it
learning and
out.
growing as we're trying to help these tiny humans learn and
Yeah.
grow. And yeah, we're all just learning and
Oh,
growing
yeah.
together. So I think the more grace we can give to all parties involved in our families, the better. Now, of
Yes.
course, like caveat, this does not apply when there's anything abusive happening. There are
Asterisks
lines
on
that should
this.
not be crossed.
Yes.
But, outside of those situations, yeah, like give all the grace you can because life is hard
Oh,
for everybody.
it
It's a
is.
growing experience.
I will finish this out with one more quote from Oraya. All of it was true at once, that he had saved me, that he had crippled me, his selfishness and his selflessness, that he had tried, that he had failed, and that he had loved me anyway. And I would carry all of that forever for the rest of my life. This shows that she can hold compassion for him, but she's also holding him accountable too. And I think that's an interesting dichotomy, but I think it says a lot about her character too.
Absolutely. I mean, her growth just in the time in these ruins is pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
And definitely, if you look back from the beginning of this book, it's, her grieving process with Vincent has been complicated by
man.
finding out all of these secrets that he kept from her. But then also for her whole life, he was the only person she felt like she could semi trust and be safe with.
Right.
She definitely showed a lot of growth and a
Oh,
lot of
man.
character with that.
Can you imagine the traumatic whiplash you'd get from all
My gosh. I hope they have some good royal therapists
Right.
in the Nightborn Castle so that
What are you
Raihn and
talking about? She
Oraya,
has no time for therapy right now. Just
geez,
kidding.
well, I mean,
Later.
hopefully she'll have time later, right?
Just kidding.
That quote also just reminds me of how perfectly complex Vincent is as a character.
Yes.
I know
Oh,
we've talked about this before, but I will never stop talking about how he is the epitome of a complex character and how Carissa wrote him so beautifully to show that people are not black or white, that there is lots of gray area.
man.
And I don't think people ever totally love or totally hate Vincent, or they might totally love him, but they totally love him because he is so complex
Right.
and not one or the other.
No, and we talked about it in Serpent, how he was super conflicting then, and you didn't really know. But I think this is the first time you see a completely different side of him, and you get to see those memories and see that he is capable of having those feelings and love and adoration for other people that we hadn't seen before. So I think this was a big change for him. Still complicated, still didn't make the best choices, but you understand his choices a little more in these chapters. And I cried. I cried
Yeah.
again. I feel like I did not do those chapters justice at all. Go read them. They are so good. They're hard hitters.
You definitely did them justice. Don't worry, Kenz. be nicer to yourself. Compassion for you and Vincent and everyone.
Right.
That's a huge lesson I take away from this too, is you don't ever really know somebody's full story. And if
Yes.
you did, it would probably change your opinion about them. So
Oh,
something
absolutely.
that is good to think about, at least for me. Speaking of not knowing someone's full story, let's talk about
Yes.
Septimus Watch here. Except we can't, because he's nowhere to be
He's nowhere
found
to-
in this section. Like,
Right.
nowhere. They mention him here and there, but at no point in this stretch of chapters do we see him or interact with him. So that's interesting, right? Simon's out there wearing the god teeth and doing all the things, but Septimus is still what? Smoking a cigarillo in the ballroom?
Well, especially when Araya's getting Alaris's blood, you would think he'd want to be around for that.
Yeah.
You would
Maybe
think.
he was. I don't know. I wonder where he was.
He's watching.
So really, there's no Septimus Watch because there was nothing to watch, guys. Since there was nothing to watch, that's where we end our exploration
right.
of the Ashes and the Star-Cursed Kingford today. Before we go, let's take a moment to express gratitude to a character who we admire from the stretch of chapters. Is there anyone, Kenzie, that you want to express gratitude for?
I feel like there's a couple that
Yeah.
you could express gratitude for in this.
Tell me.
Well, obviously, I'm going to express gratitude for Vincent and showing us a different side of him, but I also want to thank Raihn again, because I would thank him every episode, I think. Alia. Aunt Alia. I think
Yeah.
she deserves a thank you in this stretch of
You're
chapters.
so right. She does deserve a thank you note. Absolutely. Not only does she save Araya's life, but she then kind of goes on to share information with Araya.
Yes, she does.
Oh, and there's also, I was tempted to pick this for my book therapy because it was such a tender moment, but there's this really sweet moment when Alia tells Araya that she, over all these years, has hoped that Araya can somehow feel how loved she is.
Yes.
Because she does love her so very much. And I thought that that was really, really sweet. I loved that between Alia and Araya. So I agree. Alia for sure deserves a thank you note.
Yes.
And she gave her the bracelet.
Yes.
That made the magic hand map. So
yes. Yes. It wasn't.
Where would we be without Alia?
Well, we needed her because that
Totally.
pendant that Vincent had, that Raihn found, matched the bracelet and opened the whole world, right?
The whole thing, yes.
The whole thing.
And Alia didn't do this, but this person is married to Alia. I think his name is Jace, maybe?
Yes, something like that.
And he takes the pieces of Vincent's old sword and he reforms them into some dual blades, which is Araya's favorite weapon of choice.
Yep.
That was really cool too.
Yep.
So thank you, Alia.
It was fun to have them just kind of put in there.
Yeah.
In this moment.
Good call,
for
Kenz.
sure.
Good call. Thank you note for Alia. I love
yeah.
that. Well, with that, we have reached the end of the main portion of our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Look for Romantasy Remedy on Instagram and TikTok. Check the show notes for those links, as well as links to the printable affirmation and soundtrack playlist on Spotify. And because I like talking about soundtrack playlists these days, let me tell you a song that's on there. I'm especially excited about this because I have an infatuation with this band right now, Sleep Token.
I used to love them growing up.
Sleep Token?
Yeah. Are they an older band? I have them on my old
I don't
punk
think
playlist.
So. Have you seen a picture of Sleep Token? When I say Sleep Token, what are you picturing?
Like punk rock.
It is rock, but okay, so maybe just Google Sleep Token and tell me if you're thinking of the correct band.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm shocked that tell me more.
When I say infatuation, it's not like I have a crush on how they look infatuation, because none of us know what they actually look like. But there are just some songs by Sleep Token that hit me in the soul, man. They are so good. The one I put on this playlist is called Levitate, and it has a couple of lyrics that reminded me of that whole scene where Araya is trying to save Raihn. Like, Raihn is dying on the ground and she's trying to save him. And so there's this lyric where they say, "Will you levitate up where the angels inhabit? Will you levitate where I won't reach you?" There are several others that made me think of this scene. But one other thing, I'm just going to do a little plug for Sleep Token, I guess. I don't know. But their music, there is such a variety of styles in their music.
Interesting.
So there are some songs where it's legit screaming rock. So just be prepared for that. This one is a little slower. It's more of a ballad, I guess.
Okay.
And then there's ones that almost sound a little more like pop. There's
Okay.
just a variety, which I think speaks to their talent. You know what, Kenzie? I'm going to send you a sleep token playlist.
Please do. Do you
because
have one?
Yes, I do. It's titled Sleep Token Favorites.
Love
You know
it.
what else I think I could do that would be super fun is make a sleep token carousel about Romantasy. All the
Great
romantic
idea.
characters' favorite sleep token songs.
And then you need a tag sleep token in it.
Yes, they probably won't respond because being anonymous is kind of one of their things, but that's okay. I would be really happy if they responded. Anyway, that was a lot of words for me to tell you that there's a soundtrack playlist for The Ashes and the Starker's King. And there's a
Perfect.
link to it. So check it out.
Sounds good. Well, we're really looking forward to connecting with you and nerding out over all the best romantasy. After this, we'll begin the spoiler central segment of the episode, which you shouldn't listen to if you haven't finished the entire series, including the rest of this book. So you've been warned.
Yes, please turn it off right now if
Right
you
now.
haven't read all of the Crowns of Nyaxia books, including Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, Songbird and
one's
the
my
Heart of
favorite.
Stone, The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk. You need to turn it off. There's a lot we're going to
Oh,
talk about
yes,
in
there
Spoiler
is.
Central. I shouldn't
Okay.
have talked about Sleep Token for so long because we have a lot to talk about with Spoiler Central. So here we go. Alia says that Nyaxia's magic wouldn't have been able to save Oraya on its own, that they actually needed Acaeja's magic, which I thought was super interesting. She also goes on to say that Araya's mother felt that Acaeja was the goddess of lost things.
Yes.
And so I read that and I thought that is super interesting because then if you think ahead to who Acaeja ends up kind of adopting, like from each of these
Right.
books, there is Oraya and Raihn, who have kind of felt like lost things a little bit.
Right.
And then Selena and Atreus, same thing. Misha and Asar, same thing. They're all kind of these little like lost puppies, and then Acaeja just takes them in.
But if you think of the group that Selena was,
Oh, the Arachessin.
they're kind of made up of lost things. Because she
True,
was
'cause
kind
they
of
like
lost
literally
when,
find impressionable
yes,
young women and bring
yeah,
them in. So that's
that are
true.
kind
That's
of
a
in
great
bad situations
connection.
or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great point. The next thing I wanted to talk about in Spoiler Central, you read this briefly when you were talking about Vincent. He references Nessanin.
Yes.
He says, I think of another dark-eyed woman, a former queen who had been kind to me when I hadn't deserved it, who I had not spared, and feel a little pang of regret. And
Yes.
Raihn at one point in this book talks about Nessanin's dark eyes and stuff. So I'm convinced that that's who Vincent's referring to. And I thought it was so interesting that he says that she was kind to him. And I'm like, what did
Right.
that look like? He had just killed Neculi. He probably
Right.
had her in prison or something. That was fascinating to
And
me.
wasn't Nessanin the one that Rain was kind of with?
Yes, they had a little relationship happening.
Yeah.
But remember, she refused to go with Raihn
Right.
when
And he
he
had to
was
leave her there, right?
mhm.
He was escaping.
And remember that when Raihn killed Vincent in Serpent and everyone was about to turn on Oraya and kill her,
Right.
Raihn goes, well, I'm going to take her and keep her as a sex slave like Vincent did to Nessanin, basically. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah. Interesting.
very layered situation there. Okay, so let's circle back to Vincent's conversation with Oraya in the ruins and how he says he tried. I tried, Oraya, I tried. When you read The Fallen and The Kiss of Dusk, as Kenzie has just done, so this is all like probably super
So
fresh for
good.
you, Vincent continues trying. He continues trying to help Oraya from the underworld.
Yes.
And that is one of my favorite parts of The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk. There is this powerful quote that he says to Misha, and I believe this is when Misha is not in a great place, but he goes, do you think I don't know what this is like to lose the greatest love you've ever known? I do know this, and it was the fault of my own mistakes. Sorry, guys, it's a little long. I promise it's worth
It's
it.
such a good one, though. Yeah.
No one else's. No, Misha Ilie. I'm not here to earn Nyaxia's favor. I am here because someone I once loved very much believed in the power of fate, the power of even the most inconsequential person to change it. Her goddess sent me to you, not my own, and I know that there is nothing I can ever do to right the terrible ways I wronged her, not in life and certainly not in death. But her daughter, our daughter, is up there still at the mercy of this game of gods. I will not allow her to suffer the consequences of it, and I do not care if the goddess damned underworld collapses around me, but I will not allow it to take her with it. I didn't protect either of them in life, not the way I should have, but I will be damned if I don't protect them now, so get up.
My
So
feelings
good.
for Vincent after that book.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Vincent being Misha's mentor in the underworld
Yes.
was the best.
The ending when he comes and he's like, we've got some work to do, basically.
Well,
I was
that's
like,
the ending of Songbird, right? Because that's
Songbird.
the first
You're
one
right. Yes, Songbird.
in that one.
That's the second one. Yes, that one I was like,
Yes,
no.
everybody I think was like that. And you were at least smart and waited till Fallen was out and just read them like kind of
Yes.
one right after the other. I read Songbird and then had to wait months for Fallen to come out, knowing that Misha and Vincent were gonna team up in the underworld somehow.
Oh, man.
So it was a hard
I appreciate
wait.
you keeping that a secret too. That would have been a hard
That
one
was
for me to keep.
hard. That was rough. You're welcome, though. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, another thing that's kind of tied to the Fallen, the Kiss of Dusk. Let's talk about Alaris's blood for a second.
Right.
So, Asar and Misha ask Oraya and Raihn to use the blood of Alaris to help them track the heart of Alaris. But remember, Nyaxia takes
Yes.
Alaris's blood with her. So the blood that they still have access to, they actually distilled from Simon's body. They say
Right.
this in Fallen. So that's
Right.
crazy. And at that point, Oraya and Raihn had moved it to another location. So they
Yes.
send Vale to go get it.
Yep.
But remember, Vale is captured and Gideon intercepts the blood and then destroys it to signal Shik it and all those crazies to come down in the House of Night. So anyway, this is our first introduction to Alaris's blood. Is right here in Ashes and the Starcursed King, and little do we know all the things that are gonna
Right.
come about because of it.
I know, it makes me think of Simon and his teeth too. Which god was that from Alaris as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because at this point, he is the only god that's been killed. Another thing to note here in Spoiler Central, Oraya mentions when Raihn is dying, she says that she will not sacrifice Raihn. And that reminded me of something Misha says to Asar at the end of Fallen. She says, I told you that strength is measured by the sacrifices we refuse to make. You were mine. So I thought that was really interesting that they both felt that same sentiment about the person they love, that they will not sacrifice them.
Yep.
So beautiful.
Drawn the line.
Okay, Kenz. Now, this is the bulk
big
of our
one.
Spoiler Central.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Because at the end of this section of chapters, we have Nyaxia show up to talk to Oraya, and then we have Acaeja show up immediately after. I realized that there's a Nyaxia-Acaeja interaction in the next few books, and thought it would be interesting to look at them almost side by side and see how they're different, how they're the same. So with Oraya and Raihn, Oraya first summons Nyaxia. Nyaxia shows up, but as you said in the recap, she will not grant the Coriolis bond. But she suggests that someone else could.
Right.
She's kind of like, I cannot be the one to grant it to you. And I don't feel like she's outright telling Oraya to ask someone else to do it, but she also didn't not tell her to do it. So
Right. It's such an odd.
I don't know. Not quite sure if she was trying to lead her that way or if that's just how the wording came out. But
Acaeja got a fate. I mean,
yeah. Right. Either way, Acaeja appears and she does grant the Coriolis bond, and she says that that is the first time she's ever done that. And she says it's because Oraya tells her that Raihn could make things better, and then they promise that they're going to fight for what's right. And she says that several times in the conversation, that what's important to her, Acaeja, is what is right with a capital R. So interesting. Let's talk about Selena and Atreus next. So at the end of slaying the vampire conqueror, Nyaxia and Acaeja both appear pretty much at the same time.
Yep.
And it's when Atreus kills the Sight Mother.
Yes.
So Nyaxia, of course, is super happy about it. She's very pleased with Atreus. But Acaeja, on the other hand, not so much. She is not happy about the Sight Mother being killed, which I find very interesting. And that is, to be honest with you, the main reason I find her to be sus still, because the Sight Mother was the worst.
Well, I know, because she's always like doing the right thing. And clearly the Sight Mother was like not
Right. Like, why are you letting the Artressin blind people if you're so concerned about doing the right thing?
Right.
I don't know.
Yep. No, it's true.
That's my big question with her, to be
Yep.
perfectly honest. But anyway, back to this moment. Acaeja isn't happy. Selena's afraid that because she's unhappy, she's going to kill Atreus. And she decides to take the blame, says it was her fault. And she offers her life as payment for this. And then Acaeja comes over to Selena and tells her that Selena's life is worth more to her than her death. So she wants her to live. And then she also allows Atreus to live.
Right.
And before she leaves, she warns Nyaxia that she's crossing a line. I guess historically, Acaeja has kind of stuck up for Nyaxia.
Right.
The other members of the White Pantheon.
She's like the only one that was not good with her, but actually like
didn't hate her as much as everybody else.
Right.
So in this moment with Selena and Atreus, though, she says, you've crossed a line, Nyaxia, and I'm not going to defend you when the other members of the White Pantheon come at you. I'm not going to defend you. And then Acaeja leaves. And before Nyaxia leaves, she lifts the curse on Atreus, and then she leaves too. So that's the end of that interaction. Little different from Raihn and Oraya. Nyaxia actually does help Atreus out and takes away his curse. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now let's talk about Misha and Asar. At the beginning of Fallen, Acaeja is the one who tells Asar he needs to ascend to divinity in order to save Misha. So she's already getting right into the mix here, getting right into the action. And then at the end of the book, right after Misha gets Asar back from being the god of death, Nyaxia shows up and she's super pissed. And she realizes that they both have pieces of Alaris's heart inside them, and she's ready to fight them, pretty much. But then the rest of the White Pantheon appears, including Acaeja, and Acaeja will not allow Nyaxia to hurt Asar and Misha.
Right.
And then Acaeja calls out Shikit for being power-hungry and trying to take over the White Pantheon. And then Acaeja just pretty much announces that the House of Night and the House of Death are under her protection and that she anticipates everyone's going to be at war pretty soon. Nyaxia leaves, the rest of the White Pantheon leaves, and then Acaeja heals Misha, because remember, Misha was kind of struggling. So she heals Misha at that point. So again, we have Nyaxia unwilling to help the vampires, and Acaeja stepping in and protecting them and healing them. So I'm not sure what to make of all of that, but that's how the Nyaxia-Acaeja interactions stack up side by side.
It is interesting. And then it's interesting too because, as we know, Nyaxia is the god over the House of Night, House of Blood, House of Shadow. But now we have a House of Death that Acaeja's over, but she's also taking over the House of Night. But we also know the House of Night's kind of fallen out of favor with Nyaxia.
Right.
At that point, which is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes, very.
Some of those interactions make it like,
Right. And so Nyaxia, she still has the House of Blood and the House of Shadow.
Right.
But we know from the epilogue of Fallen that Septimus is up to something.
He's scheming.
And he is definitely almost being like a double agent, it sounds like, with Nyaxia. And this is why I'm so highly anticipating The Lion and the Deathless Dark, because I can't wait to get more information about this. But yeah, I think he has no love for Nyaxia. It's fake. So
no, it's true. Yeah.
It will be interesting to see what happens between Nyaxia and Acaeja and just how they show up in the next book.
Right. It's definitely been an escalation up to this point. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. And don't forget that Kyrene has a sword from Shikit. So that's in there too.
Right. And she's going to be Septimus's girl, right? Supposedly.
That's what we have been told, yeah.
All right. So much.
Yes, cannot wait. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, Acaeja warns Oraya that because she is granting this Coriatis bond for Oraya and Raihn, that Nyaxia will bring forth a great reckoning. And then when you're reading The Fall and the Kiss of Dusk, Misha remembers that exact line. I guess Oraya must have told her about it because she wasn't there. But Misha remembers this exact line, and it's at the moment when Nyaxia attacks Vostis. And, that's when Asar ascends to divinity and all the things happen. But yeah, that line just comes up
Back
in
to
The
her.
Fall and the Kiss of Dusk. So there it is. That's
Man,
spoiler
oh man.
central. So much
It's
going
so
on.
much, and it ties so much together, but we really need Septimus's books to really
Yeah.
get it all together.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious to see how this war and everything between all these gods plays out. It's gonna be a wild ride, I think.
Oh man. It's a good one though.
Yeah, so good. Well, thank you, Kenz, and everybody for
Thank
sticking
you.
around for Spoilers Central. And thanks for listening to Romantasy Remedy. We'll see you next time. Bye.